Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's a great Tuesday morning here in your nation's capital, and it's the last Tuesday of 2025 as we ring out the old and ring in the new all week long. Coming up at 7:05, Megan Mobbs, Director of Independent Women's Center for American Safety and Security, talk about the military and security news of the day, including some developments with Zelensky in Ukraine and Netanyahu in Israel, both meeting with the president the last couple of days. Also coming up at 8:05, Adam Gullett, Accuracy in Media. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. Patrice, your voice is sounding stronger. Have you been taking something here to battle your flu?
You know, I've got some Chinese honey and ginger tea. Okay. So it's working.
I'm sure that'll do it. Chinese honey and ginger tea.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
You might try something a little stronger, but if you're looking at the president's triumph this year in terms of getting the reconciliation package through, which really is a minor miracle that deserves some some
it was
attention.
a yeoman's lift.
And great work by Mike Johnson, the Speaker, and Jason Smith, the Chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, who helped craft that bill. They got it through, and some of the top, it's done two amazing things. Number one, it made permanent the 2017 tax cut. So nobody's getting a tax increase. Democrats would have increased your taxes. We know that.
Over 20%, yes. It would have been a 20% tax increase.
And secondly, no tax on tips and overtime, which was one of the hallmarks of the president's campaign.
Yes.
By the way, the no tax on tips was so popular, if I remember right, even Kamala Harris adopted it.
She adopted it, yes.
It was part of her campaign as well. Yes.
After he announced it, she made it part of her campaign platform.
Which makes this story out of the New York Post even more fascinating. Governor Kathy Hochul, Democrat, who endorsed and supported Kamala Harris in 2024, and the Democrats in Albany have not extended President Trump's no tax on tips policies to the state income taxes. Now, this, of course,
she's such a Scrooge.
Hits bartenders and restaurant workers in the pocketbook, all while preaching affordability, says the New York Post. That's right. You want to make things more affordable, then cut people's taxes so they have more money and they don't have to spend as much and give it to the state. But that's exactly what's happening here. And New York is not alone.
And not just Kathy Hochul, Larry.
That's right. Who else are we looking at here?
We're looking at the Democratic governors in California, Illinois, Colorado, Maine, and, of course, New York. Very, very interesting that these governors want to spend more of your tax dollars on free daycare and free childcare, but they don't want you to keep your tips. They don't want you. They want you to continue to be taxed on your tips to the hardworking people of these states.
Yeah. Now, Maryland has not adapted it yet, but they also haven't been in session. Maryland, unlike those other states who have legislative sessions after the Big Beautiful Bill was passed, the first week of January, lawmakers in Maryland will be assembling. But I cannot imagine them adopting this either. Ditto Virginia, because here's the thing. This has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your well-being. It has nothing to do with your finances. It doesn't even have anything to do with good economic sense. It has to do with Trump. And both Wes Moore,
that's exactly what it is, yeah,
and the Democrats in Maryland and new Governor Abigail Spanberger, who also, last I checked, was preaching affordability when she wanted your vote, and the Democrats in Richmond, they care more about a middle finger to Donald Trump than they care about your finances. So I would suspect that tips will remain subject to state income tax in the state of Maryland unless the people of Maryland actually put some pressure. Also, one other quick thing. Wes Moore is running for re-election next year, so maybe that'll be the game changer. Maybe that. You
would think, but some of these Democratic governors probably are running for re-election soon enough as well. Kathy Hochul, for example. That said, you know what? This is part of the larger the bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill that we're going to see enacted as soon as probably Friday morning, Thursday morning, the first of the year. And so, all of these tax benefits are going to go into play and go into place. And I think people will start to feel some more relief. And I think Democrats, they fought the one big beautiful bill. They did not want you to they wanted to see your taxes rise. They did not want to see additional tax cuts. And so this is how it's playing out here, Larry. And this is a great opportunity for, I think, some of our groups on the right to galvanize the taxpayers to demand that what happens at the federal level also happens at the state level.
Yeah. Michigan, by the way, it should be noted, is one outlier here under Democrat Gretchen Whitmer, who also has national plans. She's either going to run for president or make herself available to be a top pick as running mate. Because let's face it, she's in one of those states that Democrats need to win back if they're going to win the White House. Michigan has, in fact, adopted the cut on tips and overtime.
There you go.
I find that so it's possible you can do it, and it's amazing. Both California and New York and Illinois are citing budget shortfalls. Oh, if we did that, we wouldn't have. Okay, so number one, that's just not true. How many times do you have to see Republicans cut taxes and then end up showing more money coming into the coffers?
Yes.
For the state, it happens all the time. You give people more money, they will spend it, they will use it. That means more jobs. That means more sales tax. It means more income tax because more people have been hired to accommodate the business that is generated by people having more money in their pocket. Every time it happens. So it won't affect your budget in a negative way, number one. Number two, they're always easy. They're always quick to find a tax that they won't adopt so that you can keep your money because of budget concerns. But when was the last time they actually found something they're spending money on that is either full of fraud and abuse or unnecessary, not doing what it's supposed to do? Look at all the billions of dollars Gavin Newsom has spent in California for criminal vagrancy that he likes to call homeless or the unhoused. And yet it's not fixing the problem. So maybe stop spending that money. Let people keep their money. Maybe that'll help homelessness. Or maybe people will then take the extra money that they're not paying to Sacramento or to whatever state capital you happen to be living in, and because they have that money, they'll give it to private charities who do a better job getting people back up on their feet and off addiction and into proper housing. Maybe that's the solution, but they will never look at it that way, ever.
Every time. What's also interesting, Larry, is that the One Big Beautiful Bill actually did a really solid giveaway to blue states. Because remember the SALT deduction, which is your state and local tax deduction, where you're able to deduct your state taxes on your federal returns. That was capped at $10,000, and that cap has been bumped up to $40,000 beginning next year, or in a couple of days from now. So these blue states, as we know, have very high taxes. And the SALT deduction has been a way of saying, okay, we know our taxes are high, but, the federal government's going to kind of, cover things for us. And so, at minimum, these governors could at least give in on the overtime, allowing, taxpayers who are deducting their, no longer paying taxes on their tips to be able to do that at the state level as well. Knowing that, the One Big Beautiful Bill really did take care of taxpayers in blue states by raising the SALT cap to $40,000.
They're making the calculation that the voters in their states are more interested in screwing Trump and making Trump look bad, or in some way just whatever you do, you can't adopt a policy that Trump has adopted at the federal level. Again, somehow Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan is the outlier here. And let's not forget, again, I want to reiterate, Kamala Harris adopted the no tax on tips package when she was running for office, but it doesn't matter now. They're making the calculation that their voters are more interested in defying a Trump policy, no matter how popular it may be and how effective it may be. And I think they're calculating wrong. I think that they are still fighting an election 10 years ago, and they're not having an eye on the future. But it's up to voters to actually make that difference. All right, coming up, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a rant about homelessness.
Okay.
Because this is going to be a big issue going into the next year. If you don't mind, it's not a rant, but a tiny monologue about how homelessness actually can be fixed. Yes, and it's basically as easy as securing the border. And I would love for the Trump administration to adopt this idea. We'll get to it in a second. First, though, it's 6:15 WMAL Traffic and Weather. Every 10 minutes, first on the 5. Steve Hirshhorn's in the Hadid Carpet Cleaning Traffic Center. As we talk about all of these state programs and all of the spending, especially in these blue dominant states like Illinois and New York and Minnesota and California, I keep throwing out there, and it's impossible not to say it, Patrice, the data point about the money that was spent on homelessness. And California is sort of the perfect example of that because the largest percentage of homeless in this country happen to be in California, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So if you don't mind, I'll give your voice a little bit of a break as you're recovering from the flu here. I have some thoughts about this, and I truly believe that if the president were to adopt this on a national level, this could be as successful as his border security policies. In the same spirit of not needing new laws, but just a new president who will enforce the laws that are on the books, in every single jurisdiction where you see rampant homelessness right now, the laws already exist to fix this problem. First, though, we have to start with the language involved here. You know, the term homelessness is no longer being employed by the political left or Democrats like Gavin Newsom or Kathy Hochul or people here in Washington, D.C. Have you noticed that? They're now saying the unhoused. The unhoused. It's this sort of passive kind of, removed from the responsibility sort of language where this person who is living on the street in a cardboard box, suffering from addiction and breaking our laws and making our society worse, is merely an unhoused individual. Wait, how does one exactly become housed? How does one become a housed individual? Well, I know how you're housed. I know how I'm housed. I work my butt off. I make money, I save money, I make good choices, and it gets me to a point where I can either afford rent or, if I've saved enough, I can put a down payment on a home and actually purchase a home. And if, by the way, I can't afford a home in Bel Air, California, or San Francisco, or Colorama in Washington, D.C., I go to a neighborhood where I can afford to live. And I buy a house that is affordable for me based on the income that I make. That's how somebody is housed. The person who is living on the street right now, they're not just unhoused. And by the way, they're not homeless. Homeless used to be the left-wing euphemism for people who live on the street and degrade our society. Do you know what we used to call them? We used to call them vagrants. We used to call them hobos. Yeah. If you were really being uncharitable, you would call them bums. Do you know why we used to use those terms? Because nobody wants to be a bum. Nobody wants to be a vagrant. We employed those terms because there was a social stigma attached to somebody who couldn't get their stuff together so that they could put a roof over their head and actually live in shelter. All right, so let's first dispense with the euphemism. They're not our unhoused neighbor. They're not homeless. They are vagrants, and there are laws on the books of every single city and state in this country against criminal vagrancy. Living on the sidewalk, living on the street is against the law, but those laws are not enforced. Those laws are not enforced like so many liberal, progressive, Marxist ideas. They're not enforced because of compassion, because the powers that be believe that it is compassionate to let a person live on the sidewalk, live in your public park, live in a public facility, be susceptible to the elements, susceptible to criminals, live in a tent, live in a cardboard box, allow them to urinate on your public square, defecate on your public square, and do even worse things in your public square. How is that compassionate? First of all, to the person who is either suffering from addiction or mental illness, or suffering because they're under the thumb of some sort of criminal element. How is it compassionate to them? And certainly, if we may, how is it compassionate to us, the rest of society and our civilization, the people who deserve to bring our children to a public park without dodging hypodermic needles or worse on the slide or on the swing set? We pay for these facilities. We pay for those sidewalks. We pay for all of these things. All we have to do is start enforcing the law. And it truly is as simple as this. I saw it happen before my very eyes in New York City. When Rudy Giuliani became the mayor, he said, no more of this. Here's what's going to happen. If you're living on the street, you will be arrested and you will be put in jail. Now, you get one chance when we arrest you. If you are suffering from mental illness, we will put you in a facility so you can get treated. But there are demands on you in that facility. You need to clean yourself up. And you need to get yourself back on track and get out there and join society. And demanding that of somebody is actually compassionate. Number two, if you are suffering from addiction, we've got you. We're going to have a public-private partnership with churches and missions and religious groups who are great at this. They're the best at this.
Yes.
We're going to work in cooperation with them, but you've got to get into a program, and you've got to get clean. They'll help you get clean, and they're literally going to get you clean. They're going to give you a new suit. They're going to teach you job skills. They're going to teach you how to go to a job interview and get a job so you can get back on your feet and you can start sustaining yourself and working and making money so you can get your act together. All right. Thirdly, if you are a woman who is being abused and you're fleeing from your spouse, if you've got children and you're living on the street because your home is a dangerous situation, we're going to go get that guy. We're going to arrest him. We're going to put him behind bars so that you're protected and that you're safe, and you will no longer have to live on the street. The last element of people who are living on the street are people who are choosing to do it. If they're not suffering from mental health or an addiction or they're a victim of an abuse, then the only reason that they're living on the street is because they like living on the street. Well, we don't like you living on the street. You will be arrested and you will be put in jail. That's the bottom line. And as soon as you start enforcing those laws and make demands on society, your society improves. And guess what? All of those people who have been living on the street, their lives will improve. If you really have compassion, that's what you will do, because it is incredibly dangerous. If you are an addict, if you are a victim of abuse, if you are suffering from mental health, the worst thing for you is to live on the streets. That's actually incredibly harmful to you, and it is not compassionate to let that happen. This could be fixed as easily as the border was fixed. All you've got to do is have the wherewithal to do it and enforce the laws that you've already got on the books and put together a fundamental plan to be able to get it done. And if this president were to do it and find a couple of states as his laboratories to be able to implement these policies, Patrice, we could see a change within 6 months, and it would be astounding, and it would draw into focus the fraud and abuse that California has encountered under Gavin Newsom, the man who wants to be president, because every solution that they brought to the table has only made it worse. They've got nothing. So that's forgive me for going off on a bit of a monologue there, but it's something that I've been thinking about, studying, and stewing on for so long. And when you see things working, it doesn't make any sense that you can go to another state and not have the same problems that you see in other states. Why? Why suddenly? It's not like the economy is different in California. No. If anything, it should be better. So anyway, that's my thought, and I hope that somebody's listening. Thanks for listening to me, Patrice.
Absolutely.
Go
and
fix it
I know
now.
it's 6:25, WMAL, traffic and weather. All right, we've got some updates on deportation efforts by the Trump administration. There's some good news, but obviously there's going to be some bad, too. Stay with us. It's O'Connor and Company at 6:30.
It's 6:37. Thanks for tuning into O'Connor and Company this 30th day of December. It's Larry O'Connor with Patrice Onwuka. And Patrice, again, your voice is getting stronger. Patrice has the flu, so everybody stand back, all right? Thankfully, we have protocols here.
Yeah, don't get too close, everybody.
We've employed all of our COVID-era protocols for this morning's program so that we are all safe. Don't worry. She's isolated.
6 feet? Is it 6 feet or 4 feet? I don't remember.
I mean, I'm already a germaphobe, so 6 feet is the norm for me. Yesterday, a huge ruling came down. You're not going to see a lot of news about it, first of all, because it's a holiday week, and second of all, it's good news for President Trump. But a ruling came down by a judge that is common sense and adheres to the law. That's a headline. Let me start where this began, which was several months ago, when the Trump administration wanted to help identify fraudulent behavior and illegal immigration behavior. We've been told all year, Patrice, frankly, it should be the PolitiFact lie of the year, that illegal immigrants don't get any welfare benefits, right? And
That's
especially Obamacare.
Told.
Especially Obamacare. You know, when the Democrats shut down the government because they wanted to increase the subsidies for Obamacare and ladled into the language of what they wanted to do with Obamacare was to ensure that illegal immigrants continued to receive benefits at the state level, Republicans said, no, hell no. We're not going to keep giving free health care to illegal immigrants. And the lie that you heard repeated over and over again from the media, well, you know, illegal immigrants don't get health care.
Yeah,
they
by
don't
law.
Get any benefits.
They always say, they coach it in saying by law.
Right. The law says that they can't do that. Well, it doesn't matter. That's what they're doing. So The Trump administration decided to put that to the test, number one, but also number two, utilize welfare programs and the documentation of welfare programs to help identify people who are in the country illegally. So, as Stephen Miller, Deputy Chief of Staff of the White House, says, the Trump administration began the process of seeking welfare records for immigration enforcement purposes. Now, let me just pause there for a minute. If you're a blue state, if you're a Democrat-dominated state, and you find out that, and you hate ICE and you hate enforcing immigration laws, right? Already you're opposed to DHA, you're opposed to all those things. And you find out the Trump administration wants to access state welfare records for the purposes of enforcing immigration laws. Shouldn't your response be, well, go ahead, because there aren't any illegal immigrants getting those benefits? Yes. Are you kidding me? There's that. The law says that illegal immigrants can't be getting any of those benefits, so what do we care if you want to look at those records? That's not what they did. I know, shockingly, Patrice, I know you'll be surprised at this. 21 blue states all getting those programs funded by the federal government.
Yes.
21 blue states immediately sued the Trump administration and tried to block that action.
And you know what they said?
Yeah.
It's not surprising. You know what they said? Quote, the Trump administration's effort to use Medicaid data for immigration enforcement is a violation of their trust and will lead to fewer people seeking vital health care. Talk about an admission of the fact that you are breaking federal law by giving illegal immigrants access to health care and other welfare benefits, which the federal law says they cannot receive.
That's
so
right.
you literally just exposed yourself.
Of course.
As lawbreakers.
That's what Democrats, sadly, ever since Bill Clinton and the Kennedy brothers, that's been something Democrats do all the time, exposing themselves. Usually it's to waitresses and interns.
What a use of words, right?
Yesterday, U.S. District Judge Vince Chabria ruled that, yes, in fact, the Department of Homeland Security and ICE can utilize this information across these agencies. It says the sharing of such information is clearly authorized by law, and the agencies have adequately explained their decisions. This marks a significant setback for California Attorney General Rob Bonta, by the way, and the 21 of his Democrat counterparts who sued in July to prevent the Trump administration from using Medicaid data obtained from the Department of Health and Human Services to target immigrants. It's not targeting immigrants, it's enforcing the law, Politico.
Yeah.
Undocumented
and not
immigrants.
just all immigrants, Larry. Politico needs to correct that. Illegal immigrants, not
That's
all
right.
immigrants.
Well, the very next paragraph, they used a euphemism. Undocumented immigrants are not eligible to enroll in federal Medicaid programs, but California and other blue states, Illinois, Colorado, New York, Washington, Oregon, Minnesota, and Washington, D.C., allow some people to receive state-funded benefits through their Medicaid implementation programs, regardless of immigration status. What? I thought that wasn't happening. So this is great news on two fronts. Number one, it exposes the lie of the year, the absolute most despicable lie of the year, that illegal immigrants are not receiving these benefits. And Democrats, yes, did, in fact, shut down the federal government and punished members in the military, punished people who were federal employees, punished all of y'all for the sake of benefits for illegal immigrants. Number one, it exposes that lie. But number two, and most importantly, it gives the DHS and ICE another tool to be able to track down people who continue to break the law. And that's the other thing that everyone needs to recognize. We'll get to it in a second. I've got more news on this, because the vast majority who are being deported right now are in the country illegally, so they've already broken the law. But then they continue to break the law. We'll give you the details on that in a moment, but just know that any illegal immigrant who is currently enrolled in a Medicaid program and receiving federal benefits like health care through the Affordable Care Act, they're breaking the law even more. They continue to break the law, and you're paying for it, and the Trump administration is fixing it. We'll get to the detail now that we've got on who exactly has been deported out of those 2.5 million and how many of them have broken the law. We'll get to that in a moment. It's 6:43.
WMAL's Vince Colonnese, weekdays at noon on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
Patrice, I want to get into who we've been deporting and what the records show right now out of the 2.5 million. But do you have anything more on that last story, though? Because we sort of hit up against it in terms of the Trump administration now getting this ruling where they can utilize welfare records to be able to aid in their immigration and deportation efforts.
I mean, I think it speaks for itself, Larry. This is a good news. I will expect, though, that these 21 attorneys generals, Democratic attorney general, will probably still try and appeal this decision higher up. They're not done. So I think the fight will continue. But at least for now, the Trump administration has another tool in their arsenal.
Yeah. And again, the lies of the left are exposed in all of this. And the fact that from the very beginning, where Republicans and conservatives were concerned about Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, and that money going to people who are in the country illegally, we were told, oh, that's crazy. You're racist. Of course not. And, of course, that's exactly what happened. And then there's this. You hear all these stories where all of these innocent people are getting rounded up and deported against their will, and they're just, it's mi abuela, and she's just here to make tamales for the neighborhood church, and they've paid
someone
their taxes.
Someone who doesn't have a criminal record, yes.
Yes, exactly. Well, we've got 2.5 million people have deported this year. 1.9 million of them have self-deported. So let's set them aside for a minute, because some of them may have been criminals.
That's a lot of self-deportations, by the way.
Nearly 2 million self-deportations. By the way, by the time the actual calendar year ends, it'll probably be over 2 million, because that 1.9 million, I think, goes through the end of November, maybe first week of December. And DHS actually increased the amount of money they're offering people to self-deport. But set them aside. They may have committed crimes. They may have. Either way, they did the right thing. They said, okay, fine. I'll go home. I'll restart, and I'll try to get into the system, and I'll legally immigrate, theoretically. Either that or they're waiting for a Democrat to be in the White House again. All right, number one. But then that means you've got 650,000 who have been apprehended and deported.
Yes.
And based on how the media covers this, you would think, they're all innocent. They're all, people just taking their kids to their special needs class because they're autistic or whatever, like Kilmore Abrego Garcia, the human trafficker and child porn aficionado, Maryland man that Chris Van Hollen loves so much. Well, based on initial reports, 70% of the illegal immigrants who have been deported so far this year have criminal convictions or pending criminal charges.
Oh, my goodness.
Just in the United States.
These are bad hombres, Larry.
Exactly. Now, you may say, oh, but what about the 30%? They didn't break the laws. Okay, well, first of all, if they were receiving welfare, they were breaking the law. If they were working with somebody's stolen identity, they were breaking the law. If they were working and getting paid under the table without utilizing fake identity, they were breaking the law. But also, ICE has not, just rounded people up on the streets and said, show me your papers. It's been very surgical, and it's very targeted. They go to places where they know criminals are. 70% have been criminals with convictions or pending charges. And then if there are people in the room, in the house, hanging out, socializing with those criminals, ICE is going to say, everybody, hands up. Everybody, show me your identification. Everybody in this room, because they can't afford to just say, oh, okay, you're not on our list, so you're free to go. No, that's how law enforcement works. If you're consorting with those criminals, they're going to check your ID too. And if something pops up, you're in trouble too. And that's where those other 30% come from, because they're hanging out with criminals. So
if you keep company with bad hombres, you're going to get swept up. And by the way, if you're not supposed to be here, whether you've overstayed your visa or you snuck in through the southern border, you know what? You've put yourself in the position of being deportable.
That's right. That's right. So the system is working. And Trump's plan is working. Stephen Miller and Tom Homan's approach under Kristi Noem is working. And that's what's scaring the left more than anything else. It's 6:52. Coming up, the latest out of Ukraine with Zelensky's visit to Mar-a-Lago. Ditto the Middle East with Benjamin Netanyahu's visit. Megan Mobbs joins us next.